Mhm. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm coming to you from my kind of messy back room, and you're coming to us from a location I don't think we've ever seen before. So that's exciting.
I like to jump around. Yes. So, why don't you introduce the podcast and we'll introduce us and talk about where we're at.
That sounds great. So I'm Megan Holmes, and I am here actually at the Needlepoint Clubhouse, which is in suburban St. Louis in Kirkwood. And I'm actually here today because I'm going to out us, and we are actually recording this on the day it's going to drop, and it is local Needlepoint shop day. And I just happened to be at the shop today, which I'm not usually. But over here is my pal Melissa McLeod, who typically comes to us from her shop in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. But today you are in.
I'm at my cottage because I was about to lose my mind because we had so much fun at market, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But yeah, I had to just escape and get away because I slept 10 straight hours last night.
Oh my goodness.
And I slept so hard, one of those sleeping so hard, you wake up and you're like I had to use the restroom. And I was like, where am I? I couldn't even remember where I was. That's how tired I was.
So together we do the Pointing It Out podcast. And for the first time in podcast history, we will call it, we actually had to get to go to a market. Yay. And for the other first time in podcast history, we actually slept in the same bedroom together.
True. We shared a few different locations, which was super great. Super great.
So maybe you could start us off by telling us, why did we have a couple of different locations, Melissa?
So we as an industry have not had an in-person market since September of 2019. So it had been over 2 years. So when I kept saying to you and our good friend Heidi at Chaparral and Deb at Stitcher's Garden, the next in-person market, we're going early. We're going to have some girl time. We're just going to hang out. We're not going to talk about business. We're just going to stitch and have fun. And we're going to be someplace with a pool, and we're going to sit outside, and it's going to be great. And it was all those things, except for the one day we could have sat by a pool. It was colder in Dallas than it was in Detroit.
And Michigan, I was going to say, and also in St. Louis. So we were here we are down south, we felt like, and it was chilly. Sorry, my light's kind of bugging me. Sorry about that. Yeah, but so we did get to have the getaway that we wanted. I will not confirm or deny, but I definitely won't confirm that we did not talk about our businesses. Because
we did a little bit, but we also did a lot of stitching, a lot of good eating, maybe a few drinks here and there too. You got your nails done. We did a little shopping. It was super fun.
It was really fun. And we were so lucky to be hosted by our pal Heidi's pal, in a really pretty condo. Is that what you call that?
I think it is a condo, but it kind of felt like the Taj Mahal to us. It was pretty, pretty shishi.
It was beautiful. And so it was just so fun. And then I'm diving in, and you were supposed to be talking about this, but I thought it was also fun that Deb, yeah, that's what I do. Deb and oh my gosh, I've lost my mind. Our friend Deb and our friend Heidi brought friends.
Yes. So they each had
a friend. We had to pretend we weren't going to work, and then that sort of backfired.
And let's be honest, when this market first evolved, and we'll get into the kind of the nitty gritty, but when the concept of this market first evolved, you and I dove right in. And at that point, they thought there'd be about 20 vendors, which, to be honest, is very, very small. We're like, we don't need help. We can do 20 vendors ourselves. No problem. And who knows what the world's going to be like? And do we want to book 2 tickets? And, all these things are complicated right now, or can become complicated. And didn't it all become complicated? Other than at the 9th hour, I think you and I both wished maybe we'd had a little help, because it was, we're going around in circles like we're not supposed to be. But anyways, it ended up being 85 vendors. So it was a much bigger market than either of us had anticipated. But
exactly,
we still conquered it.
We did. And we enjoyed our time in kind of, I guess I would call Dallas proper. Is that how we would call it? So that's where we started with our friend Heidi and her friend's place. And we're able to really do some nice networking with some local people, and also some friends who had traveled in that we sort of collected on gosh, was that Thursday night? Now I'm told.
Yeah, but see, we sadly missed you on Wednesday night because
Oh, so you have a story to tell from Wednesday. So
yeah,
sorry.
Wednesday, so Deb was there with her, I hope it's not offensive to call her shop gal, but that's what I'm going to call her shop gal, her good friend and employee and valued team member, all those things, Patty, and Heidi had her good friend Kim with her, and then it was me, and then our intent was to take out to dinner Victoria Whitson and Melissa Prince, because they were the two main market coordinators. They also had help from Diane Bertelson, who's at Pepperberry Designs, and Don Lynch, who is, I think he's now the Carolina Needlepoint Company, which is the umbrella for Associated Talents and Two Sisters. So they also helped as well, but the intent was to take Victoria and Melissa to dinner that night. It ended up Melissa couldn't come. So we all went with Victoria, and to be honest, the intent, I'll say it one more time, was to take Victoria to dinner. I'm not even sure we managed to pick up her bill because she was too fast on the draw for that, but that was the hope. So we went, I can't even tell you the name of the restaurant, but it was really fun. It was really great. We did close the joint, but I think it was only 10 o'clock. So that doesn't mean we're there super late, but it was a Wednesday night. So
I get there the next day and they're like, well, we closed down the restaurant last night. And I'm like, you go girls, you really are vacationing. Nice job.
So I think we did stay up late stitching and talking and hanging out and like all those things, because we were in this luxurious spot where we had all this space to stitch. So we had our own like little pajama party. So it was super fun. Yeah. And
Very
then
fun.
we picked you up. I think you were there maybe 11 o'clock on Thursday. Is that right? Something like that?
Ish. Sure. Yes. Yes.
And then we went to lunch. You got your nails done. I got
did, and there's-
mother-in-law's Christmas present.
That's right. You did a little shopping. I don't know. I did go to this very cool nail place though. It was huge. And they had like a slushy machine. It was only like, I don't know, noon or something, maybe. I was going to ask if they were like frosés or something, but I thought, I better not do that. So
Funny, I didn't hear that.
it was funny. I forgot to tell you all that, but yeah, so it was a cool place. But so we spent that time in, again, Dallas proper. Is that the right way?
We were in the Turtle Creek neighborhood, I think they call it.
Okay.
But then we went over to the SMU neighborhood. Oh, I kind of forgot that. Remember, we drove by the Theta house so I could take a picture and show my daughter, but Heidi never gave me the picture to show my daughter. So we'll have to get after that. And so I can send that to Allie.
I mean, because the truth is, if you don't have a photo, it didn't happen. So you better get your hands on that photo.
That was a pretty amazing campus though. That was really pretty good.
Beautiful.
And Heidi at Chaparral is an alum from there. So it was really fun for her. We went to the Torchy's Tacos, which was right in their neighborhood, which Deb and I met each other at Market in 2018, I think, maybe 2017. I can't remember. Anyways, Deb and I, since we've met every Market, we go to a Torchy's Tacos together because they only have them maybe in Texas. I don't really know.
They're delicious.
But food was great. We may have had a lunchtime margarita, which I never, ever, ever do. And it was delicious and I should do it more often. But yeah, so that was super fun. And then what did we do after that? I can't remember. It was such a late lunch. And then we had that dinner, which was at 5:30. That was our only bad planning part.
So dinner then was with some local friends.
So that had kind of come to pass because when I was there in June, a couple of my Dallas customers are like, oh, we all have to get together. You're in town. And I didn't have time then. So it ended up kind of like ebbing and flowing and changing and whatever. But in the end, I think there were 15 of us. Something like that.
The reservation, sort of forgot about that.
And I can't remember where did we go? What was the name of the place?
I was about to say, I think it was called Henry's Majestic, something Majestic.
That's right. Yes. And so it ended up being like our group that we were there, and then a couple of our industry pals, and I think maybe 7 or 8 different Dallas stitchers that are all customers of mine. And we had invited a couple customers of they're probably customers of both of ours, to be honest. But you had also invited a couple of people that ended up didn't work. One of my gals didn't work, whatever. So it was just super fun. We just sat around. Our plan was to stitch, but I don't think anyone pulled out any stitching.
It was. And so I sat next to, I sat near Malin from
Colors of Praise. Yes.
She runs her mother's design company,
She was so
I
happy to come with us because she has never been to market without a family member. So she was like, and she had 2 rooms that she was doing all by herself.
I know it was crazy. And then her brother came the next day, but and then I sat with Judy and Rachel Donnelly, who have been friends kind of since we both kind of entered the industry. And Judy has been sort of, I don't know, I hope this doesn't sound offensive, but I sort of feel like she's Rachel's mascot because she's always around and she's a helper. But she's just such a wonderful human and such a great like ambassador for Rachel's business. So they were fun too.
And I think it's awesome because she's Rachel's mother-in-law,
Yes.
close to her mother. And I don't think very few people have that special relationship she has with her mother-in-law.
And I can see why, because she's just an absolutely lovely person. So that was fun. And so, yeah, so dinner that night was fun. And like you said, if we say the names of the people who were there, we will invariably or inevitably forget somebody's not doing it.
Good plan.
Really fun to sit and enjoy. And yeah, so that was fun.
I think the only mistake that night is we should have like blown a whistle every 15 minutes and made everyone change chairs.
That we could have talked to everybody. I know I felt a little guilt about that too, not being able to talk to everyone, but that's sort of what happens at a big lively event like that. Same with market. Once we got there are people who I'm like, oh my gosh, I look at the list and I'm like, I didn't go to see them. And they're a big designer for me and a big, vendor. So I hated that, but you can only do so much. So
yeah. So that was Thursday night that we had dinner with all the Dallas, we'll just call it the Dallas crew with a few industry people sprinkled in. And then Friday, trying to remember what we did in the morning. Did we just hang out and stitch? I think we did.
It was Friday when I actually got my manicure.
Oh, maybe that was the day we shopped. Yeah, you're right. That was Friday. I'm sorry. I have it all muddled up. You'd think it was like weeks ago. This was like 8 days ago.
But the big shining moment for me on Friday was somebody says, okay, let's go get lunch. And Heidi, lovely, sweet Southern Heidi says, yeah, I think we should find a place to go where they serve wine. And I was like, okay. And so she finds this beautiful restaurant for which we had to wait quite a time. So venture to say that from the time we arrived at Rise,
yes.
I think they call it Rise something.
They have one in Dallas and one in Houston, I believe. But
it closed. There was a discussion about that. So this is like the place to be. So Rise is a French restaurant. And I always picture all the Europeans like hanging out, having like really long lunches and then taking a siesta or something. And this did not disappoint. I mean, we got there, I think we waited for probably close to an hour for our table. Maybe not quite that long, 45 minutes. I did a little shopping. We get to our table and they're like, we're going to do this in courses. So I'm going to need your starter, your main and your dessert. And I was like, whoa, we are doing this.
We're in for a penny, in for a pound, as they say.
But what a lovely time. So we sat and we enjoyed and we had the most delicious food and again, had a couple drinks and enjoyed each other's company. And I don't know what else. Some shopping. They've got like a little gift store. I realized the other day when I finally unpacked all my bags that I had a package and I'm like, what's this? And I'm like, oh yes, I bought these beautiful hand towels from Rice. Totally forgot about that. So
yeah, I think
that was a good time.
2.5 hours, maybe. I can't tell you.
I mean, at least.
It was great though. It didn't feel like 2.5 hours, but
it was good stuff.
We're like, oh my gosh. No, see, that's why I'm confused.
Because then
that was the other meal. Oh gosh. All we did was eat for like 3 days.
But now I'm confused. Which day did we go to Needlepoint this? Didn't we do that also? After lunch, we went to Needlepoint this and then we quickly went someplace else we visited another Dallas store. We went in there like I don't even know, like a herd of cats. No, we're here. We've just had cocktails at lunch and we love being at new shops. And that was fun. But I think they were like, oh my goodness. One of us looks over and is like, oh my goodness, Julia Snyder is here. And she's like a famous needle pointer. So it was just
so fun to meet Sherry because I've heard for years about Sherry, the owner of Needlepoint this, and she was just absolutely lovely. So that was
lovely.
Fun.
And
that
just
was on Thursday because I talked to. There was also a Sherry who had dinner with us who works there.
Oh man.
So I
Okay.
talked to Sherry about Sherry. So that was on Thursday. I can prove that because of that vague memory.
So we had a ball, and actually did spend some relaxation time. Had a lovely dinner with a couple of other industry friends on Friday night. Am I right about
Yeah.
that? To
Yeah.
another beautiful restaurant, and I have no clue what that was called.
I don't either, because I was just talking to someone.
Why didn't we do a little research before we hopped on here to talk about our time? I can't remember. What's
It was just a whirlwind of fun is what it was. Friday, we also did pop over to the hotel where the market was being held. So Heidi, of course, she lives in Houston. So she was like our driver extraordinaire. God bless her. She drove us everywhere. Like, was such a treat because I'm always the driver wherever I go anywhere. So it was so great to like sit in the back seat and be like, la 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 la, don't know where we are, don't know where we're going. Thank you for taking me. So that was really fun.
You must always be the driver because you never have margaritas at lunch.
Exactly. So that said, we were staying, as we keep saying, Dallas proper, but the market was in Frisco, which I think is north of Dallas. I hope. I don't know. The Dallas people can all laugh at us because we don't know. We weren't driving. We don't know our directions, and we just were driven there. It was great. So
We know it's 25 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Out. And yeah, so we went up there. We had a couple of pre-appointments, which was honestly key in all of this because it ended up being way more vendors than we could bite off and chew. So
let's back up a little, because in the days of old, market was typically 2.5 days long, with a bonus evening. So like when I first started in this industry, you would go to a conference center. You'd get there on Friday, like late afternoon, and there'd be like all these previews Friday night, but you couldn't shop. There were very, very strict rules. And that was even true with Destination Dallas. Like, you might get there on Friday and the vendors might be setting up their rooms, but nobody was allowed to go in. Although certain years they'd have like a preview hour or something. But in this case, and then we'd have market on a conference room floor, like cement floors, pipe and drape, the whole like typical industry, marketplace type thing. And it would be all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and then half the day on Monday. So the difference with this market is, and kind of the industry has evolved, those type of shows, from talking to my vendors, and I'm sure you've had discussions with the vendors as well, that type of conference center floor, if that's what it's called, convention center floor, excuse me, is very expensive because there is the expense of the building, plus there's a lot of requirements that they have to bring in your tables and they have to bring in your boxes, and that's all like, really great because you're not schlepping stuff around, but you're paying a lot for that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of evolved over the last few years to do these hotel-based markets, where in this case we were at an Embassy Suites, right? It was an Embassy Suite, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think most people have been in Embassy Suites, where you have like a bedroom in the back, and then you have your bathroom, and then your front room's like a sitting room area. So most of the vendors set up their whole, front room as their booth per se. And then they sleep in their bedroom. And some of the vendors even have so much stuff that, they stash all their personal stuff in the closet by day, and then stash all the merchandise, flip-flop it, depending on the time of day. So in this case, we got to pop over to Embassy Suites, and there weren't a lot of rules. They said if people were ready to see you, they could see you. And I had to I had a sample from Melissa Prince, so I had to tote that over to her room. And we had a couple pre-appointments, so we were able to shop. So that gave us kind of our extra half a day that we were missing, because this market was technically only Saturday and Sunday.
Well, and backing up even further, the intention of this was not to put pressure on buyers or sellers. It was really just to say, let's all get together. It was called a Needlepoint reunion. They were hoping that people would come, even if they unfortunately didn't have like enough stock to sell. So it was intended to just be sort of like, everybody, if you feel comfortable and if you have some stock, come on over. There wasn't hours set. There wasn't a set, there wasn't classes, there wasn't meetings, because, the other thing that Melissa hasn't mentioned, I'm sure she was getting to, and I interrupted her, is that there used to be sort of simultaneous things happening at the market as well. So there would be like classes, say the first half day would be classes while the vendors were setting up. The buyers could take like a class from a national teacher, or maybe even a class from somebody who does web design, or any kind of like a business enrichment sort of class, and or a stitching type of class. So there was none of that. There was no superfluous I said Maisie.
Here.
I'm Hazer. Well, my kids just arrived at the shop too, so they might make it a cameo as well. But anyway, so this was really intended to be a very sort of bare bones.
Victoria kept calling it a no frills market.
Yeah. And I think in the end, we all realized how wonderful that was, but it's just a change in pace from what many people are used to from a needlepoint market setting. So yeah, so it was great for us to have that extra little time to do some shopping on Friday. And then we were ready to
throw something in, because you said a key word earlier. You said something if people were comfortable. So, unfortunately, we are still recording this. If you're watching this today, when we're recording this, but if you're watching this down the road, we are still very much in the thick of COVID, even though we all don't want to be. So everyone was masked everywhere. And so, and it wasn't too crowded. Like you could kind of keep.
People in the state of Texas generally were not as masked, but the people in our group in the hotel.
That's what I mean, at the market itself.
Want to know they're in at the market. Yeah, I would say different for me, where we still have a county mandate, and different for the state of Illinois, where there is a state mandate of masking. You're walking around and I'm like, why is nobody wearing a mask in the grocery store? This is bizarre. But it is what it is.
We had them around our necks so that if we were super close to people, we could control.
Yeah. By and large, people at market were masked, especially when vendors said, I'm just not comfortable with people walking in here. And I'm asked the whole time. People kept saying, why are you doing that? I'm like, number one, it just doesn't bother me. It seems like a non-issue to me. And number two, my kids hadn't been vaccinated at the time. And I thought, more than getting COVID, the inconvenience of having a COVID scare and having my kids stay at home because I was off gallivanting in Texas sounded terrifying to me. So
we pretty much stuck to ourselves anyways. I mean, not at market, but beforehand, like,
Sure. Yeah. And I'm just trying to point out the fact that different, as we all know, we're still in a pandemic. The different parts of the country are handling this differently. We're still masking at our store because that's just what we are regionally. But in the industry, most people were masked or were saying, I'm vaccinated, so I'm comfortable being here. And so it was I think everyone was just respectful of everyone's, and no one said, why aren't they here? Like there was no, why isn't this person here? Why isn't that person here? Because everyone generally understands that this is still an insane time that we're living in.
Well, and that said about the people there. So we've kind of talked about like what it feels like. So you walk into this hotel and there's, I don't know how many floors the hotel had, 14 floors maybe. And all the second, third, and fourth floor were all vendors. So, in those kind of hotels, you have the atrium where usually like the eating areas, and you look up and it's so cool because you see like around the circle, all the vendors' names. They have little window displays set up. Like it is like, I just remember the first time I went to any market, it's awe-inspiring when you're in this field and you love what we do the way we love it. But to go into one of those hotel markets and you just look up and you're like,
I'm over here giggling a little bit because I actually took a picture of it, but I don't know if I did this, but I'm not trying to take us off track, but so she's right. So you go in and this is a market in a hotel. And so people are using what they can to market in their space. So Melissa and I intended to film a podcast at the hotel. So we brought a vinyl banner that we could set up and sit in front of it to do. And it ended up that, I don't know why we didn't think about this ahead of time, but it's always when you've got that many people in that small of a space trying to run registers on Wi-Fi.
We're going to give each other a little credit because we did say we're going to try this and it may not work. So we're not complete bozos.
No. We had a feeling, but we just still thought, well, maybe. So we'll just bring the banner. We had some cards printed, which now I think we both have in our stores, which we are excited about. And I figured out how to make a QR code. So I'm all feeling fancy. But this banner, and so I'm like, let's put it on the railing. And Melissa's like, really? And I was like, why not? We have it. We'll take it down when we're going to podcast. So hilariously, I think you look up and you've got like the first 3 floors, and we were on the 7th floor, and we were the only banner on the 7th floor. But why not? We just thought you know.
So just out of curiosity, did anyone say anything to you about our banner?
No.
Me neither. No one person noticed.
But we felt really fancy about it. So, you know,
We did.
it's fine. And since we couldn't podcast, we at least had a purpose for the banner. So there's that.
That is right.
And next time when we have our second in-person market, since we had a podcast, maybe we'll have this figured out in a better way. So.
Yeah. So, and we are sorry that this is our only like pointing it out market reveal, because this isn't how we planned it. But, you know, we've gotten really good at plan B, you know, in this day and age, you gotta be good at plan B. And sometimes.
Well, I also, if I recall, we had plan A and B. If this doesn't work, then this will work. And then that didn't work either. So then we tried C, and honest to goodness, that didn't work either. So we were like,
and then we just started drinking.
yeah. Fair.
Because I was pretty frazzled. You handled it better than I did, but that's, you know, I'm a little less flexible than you are. So you calmed me down and we went and had a drink. It was all okay. So
it worked out just fine. So here we are now. So back to where you were at, which is all the vendors are in the hotel and the first 3 floors. It's
so, and these, it has, I think, historically evolved into like when we used to have the convention center markets, you would show up and you would order. And then when we've kind of shifted to these hotel-based markets, it became more of a cash and carry market, which meant the vendors had to have piles and piles of canvases for the shop owners to snap up, take home, show to their, you know, customers the next day. And I think some of the people didn't come when you're talking earlier about, you know, people didn't come for different reasons and nobody was going to ask why. I will throw out there that I know a number of people didn't come because they said, I don't have any inventory, and it's a lot of work to be there and have people wait sometimes 8 months right now because of, you know, supply chain issues and all the things we've talked about for months.
Right.
So, but I will say there was some really good cash and carry. I did a lot of cash and carry. I know you did a lot of cash and carry. You and I trying to pack our suitcases Monday morning was a little bit like Fibber McGee's closet, like stuff, sit on it, stuff, sit on it again, try to zip it.
I didn't tell you this part. When I got to the airport, they were like, sorry, your bag weighs 57 pounds. And I was like, I can't, I'll pay the $75. And the lady's like, $75 is a lot. And I was like, I don't care. And she's like, really? And I was like, oh, fine. I hate being that person that's like unzipping their suitcase, taking a few things. She
reorging.
Guilted me into it. So I did it. But the truth is I had 2 bags. So I just took some out and put in the other, which is not that big of a deal. But so, yeah. So truthfully, I mean, people may not even know that, like how funny this is. Because when I first went to market, I'm like, wait, what are you doing? You want me to bring an empty suitcase?
Yeah, you pack a suitcase inside of your suitcase. That's what you do.
And frankly, it's not weird at all. If you're in the flight situation that Melissa's in, where she's like a fancy American airline or Delta or whatever flyer, or like me and you're the like, you know, bottom of the batch and you fly Southwest and you get 2 free bags. So it works both ways. You get free. And frankly, to me, and I'm sorry if I'm again hijacking this conversation, but to me, part of the reason why I like got after it and shopped is because shipping has gotten very expensive. And so every time I'm like shoving stuff in my free Southwest flying back suitcase, I'm thinking, ooh, $8 here, $11 there, $15, you know, because it really, really bites into our rather low margin in the first. So it's a business decision really to just start cash and carrying, even though it's terrifying because you're like coming back with 2 giant suitcases.
And hoping your staff won't kill you.
Oh, they are. They're ready to kill me, but that's okay. We're getting through it.
Mine are like, wait, what? And I go, it'll get put out. Yeah, it'll all be okay.
But so
we brought a lot of cash and carry. I think, there is a little like of subliminal math going on. Like how many different vendors do I have to buy from before I've paid for my plane ticket? And then how many more before I've paid for my hotel room?
Yeah, because that's an expense also for sure. And so you mentioned, and again, Melissa, if we haven't mentioned this before, Melissa and I sometimes take over being like podcast cruise director, and Melissa's cruise director today. And I am completely jumping off script, which is what I'm really good at. But you mentioned how most vendors have their own hotel room, but some of these really big lines, Chris Lewis, Kirk and Bradley, Kate Dickerson, Susan Roberts is the one I was going to get at.
The collection
There's Paint a Pony had a big I'm sorry.
It was everybody on the second floor. And then there were these corner suites that were also bigger. And I can't even
Larger.
remember all those people. Like that was
So-
Patty Mann and
So for the most part, we kind of, Melissa and I sort of, and Heidi and Deb just kind of like went around, did our thing, saw our people, because we all had kind of a task list and things, but we converged sometimes. And what I wanted, the quick little quip that I want to talk about is how funny we converged in Susan Roberts. And it's funny now because the Susan Roberts line is one that I feel like is a pretty classic line, and it's a lot for everyone. So different holidays, different styles, whatever. But so I'd be like, hey, isn't this something that you would love? And she'd be like, oh, yeah. And then she'd be like, isn't this something, weren't you looking for those? And I'm like, oh, yeah. So we're like shopping for each other, which is kind of hilarious too.
And the ladies in there were cracking up at us. They're like, you two are costing
wait.
each other a lot of money.
Clubhouse or wool in the floss? Clubhouse or wool in the floss? I'm like, that's the Clubhouse pile. That's wool in the floss. And we just kept like adding. And so that was pretty funny, I have to say. But so indifferent from a hotel room, there are a couple of these vendors who literally like in the Chris Lewis area, they had like, and he's Winnetka, Christine Kingston,
Diva.
Needle Diva, Ventures, Dreamhouse Ventures, Hey Bradley, just anyway, so they all kind of have their own rounder. And so you almost kind of shop like you're at a department store in some ways, like looking at canvases. And then the way that like Kate Dickerson handled it was just these huge tables with just stacks. And in no real particular, I wouldn't say like order or like, here's all of the ornaments. It was mostly just like, here's my stuff. And then Susan Roberts is like, here's all of the Liz line, and here's my stockings, and here's my whatever. So you're kind of just like piling through. And
they were really great about helping us though too. Like I went into Kate's booth. Is Liz, is that her sister's name?
Why do I think it's Sue, but that Sue Parsons was in there too, but sorry.
I got to meet Sue Parsons. So for those of you guys who don't know, like, I mean, I'm sorry, people come into our shops and I'm sure you get this now and then. They're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity, which is ridiculous because we're nobody to anybody. But Sue Parsons is so talented. And she has been a finisher for, I don't know, at least 30 years. Yeah. And I have sent her business for years. And yeah, I got to meet her. It was so exciting.
It is really fun to meet some of these people. And you're right. I'm not saying we're like off to the wolves by ourselves. What I'm saying is more, it kind of feels like a hunt, which almost makes it better. Like I'm looking, I'm like, ooh, haven't seen that for a while. Or, ooh, yeah, we saw that. Or
yeah, but like I went into Liz's booth or Kate's booth and I was like, I need some picture frames. Where are picture frames? And she was like, here, 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 and here, and here. Like they, even though it was kind of seems a little chaotic to like the layman, like they knew exactly where everything was, which was super,
for sure.
I got a lot of hand holding in a lot of places, which was nice.
Yeah, really, really fun. But you kind of get in this mentality, like, so I don't know, are we on our schedule? Are we on our outline here? Because I was going to say the other thing that I think
to the end.
The other thing that I think is kind of funny is, so I have here in my back room a whiteboard, and before I usually would go to market, and I didn't do such a great job of it today, but I'm like, what do we need? You know, like what are people asking for that we need to bring back? So I did kind of more of a straw poll this time. Like, what do you think? What do you think? And 2 or 3 people said 13 count mesh ornaments. So I'm like, okay, 13 count mesh ornaments. And then somebody said to me, stockings, I think was the other, there was a couple.
Because you were
but the thing that stands out to me now is when we got back and I actually collected all the 13 count mesh ornaments, I think the stack is still, I was like, wow.
And I'll be honest, I was like, gosh, I feel like she's gotten a lot already, but she must sell more than I do.
Well, we will now. Let's hope so anyway. But
for the record, good 13 mesh ornaments are hard to find. So when you
hard
see
to find, and yeah, and it's not because it's just because it's harder to detail out a design on 13 count mesh because it's rather small. It's got a lot of stitches, and there's a few designers that do it well, but then there's a couple that you're like, oh, I don't think I knew you had a 13 count mesh ornament. And that's awesome. I'll pull that in too. So literally it'll be funny. I'll have to take a picture of how many, because we've now, started to like get things out on the floor, and we've collected like all of the, because we do a lot of displaying, a lot of merchandising by like type.
Like,
So like there's a bin of 13 measurements, and I hope it doesn't
so
fall
now
out.
there's two.
Yeah, I hope we don't break the bin. But no,
Yeah.
it's just
So when we go as shop owners, like we go A, wanting to have fun, B, trying to make some good business decisions and save some money by taking cash and carry when available. We know we're going to place some orders, which we did, but in this case, you know, some of the orders we placed, like I ordered from one booth. This actually was really smart. I don't even know if you noticed this. Love You More had all of their brand new things kind of like on poster boards.
yes, I
And
loved
then
it.
she knew how many she had coming in. I don't know what month it is now.
I think it's December.
It's currently November. So she was saying she knew she had so many coming in December, and then she had so many coming in June. So she had little hashtags as she sold them so that there was a visual to like keep track of where she was, which I thought was like really smart. It was kind of like The Price is Right or something. I don't know.
Well, and what it also did was it was like, oh, if you like this, you have a couple of attempts to get this sooner rather than later. So, and you're like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So it was a great sales tactic. We need to do that in our own stores.
That was a booth I walked into. I mean, we hustled. Like I did not, as you mentioned earlier, I did not make it into every single booth. I missed a couple of people that I really wanted to see. But you have a limited amount of time and, you know, a limited amount of suitcase space. But really what I ran out of was time. And I think what you ran out of was time. And so I think it was like 4:00 on Sunday and they closed at 5 that I finally made it to Love You More. And I bought some really great things that are already gone, but I did place orders for things that will come next June. And I'm thrilled about them. It doesn't matter that I have to wait 9 months. I'm happy with it. So,
well, and frankly, I mentioned to a couple of vendors too, that this market is a little later. It was in November instead of September, which is what we're kind of typically a cycle would be. And so I actually asked some vendors, could I order this for delivery in January so that I can, number one, space out my bills a little bit. And number two, space out for inventory purposes, because you and I both know that we don't want to have a whole bunch of inventory sitting around at the end of the year because you got to count it, you know? So.
Yeah. Well, and you probably then didn't have the email that I got that I'd hit my credit limit on my Amex card. So that was fun. So I just made an early payment. It was fine, but I was like, oh, I guess I did do a lot of shopping.
I don't know how I didn't, to be honest,
well,
but
because you wrote some checks. That's why you were very smart. You wrote checks. You wrote some nice checks at the beginning because you didn't want to be in the boat I was in. So it all worked out though. So yeah, so we're going to cash and carry, place orders. I know I booked a number of trunk shows. I am sure you did as well. What many customers might not realize is we have these trunk shows at our shops every month and we plan those. Can you see how dark it's getting here? I feel like I'm glowing in the dark. Sorry. We plan those many times 2 years ahead of time. Like I'm booking now into 2024 for my trunk shows. So
I don't know if I've gotten a 24 bar booked, but definitely through 23. So yeah. And yeah. And it's really just connecting with people and making sure that you've got your schedule the same as theirs. And yeah, so the other piece of this is it's not just you walk in and like, I'll take this and this and this and check me out. It's you're networking and you're like, oh my gosh, so-and-so person, I haven't seen you forever. I walked into Chris, I keep saying Chris Lewis, but it's on my brain. I walked in, I was like, well, hi, Mr. Lewis. And he looked around and I couldn't remember. It's his dad that helps him in the business. And he's a really nice guy. And it was just, so, you just like, how are you? And what's happening? And it's not just about just like, buy and sell.
I told you this, I just remembered this. So as we mentioned, this is our first in-person market since the pandemic began, or since the podcast began, because it all kind of for us happened at the same time. And I have done a lot of business with Lauren Block over the past year and a half.
Yes.
And I walked into her booth and we've talked a ton. She did that whole Choose Happy stitch along with me where we worked on Zoom together. We did a FaceTime call, whatever. So I walked in, I'm like, Lauren, how are you? And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to meet you. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, it was like mind blowing for a minute. I'm like, what do you mean we haven't met before? But we had never met. So that was in real life. It was so fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, so. It is. And so it's a lot for that. And I really am grateful to those who went ahead and persevered and got this group together because it really was nice. And I haven't heard of anything.
Turning on a light because I feel like I'm a glowing Halloween creature. Go ahead.
I think the concern too is that no one wanted to be unsafe or unhealthy, and I haven't heard any fallout. I mean, I guess so. I think that it was a good idea. In the end, it was a good idea, and we also let's talk about kind of. So we talked about kind of like the logistics and like how it all goes down and what we were excited about. But I think we haven't talked. We have just a couple of ideas of. Neither one of us wanted to go through like all the canvases we bought because we're going to do that as well.
I want to see some of your favorite things. So show me what you found that was a favorite.
Kind of talk about. So one thing that was my favorite, I think they just took one of them away from me. Oh no, okay. So on the very first night I found this and it's big. I'm gonna back up. But so what I said when I saw this was I was like, oh, well, if I can't live in a gingham house, I want to live in a plaid house. Like how stinking cute is that? Like I've never been like a Griswold person, like my whole entire house isn't full of lights. But if I could somehow live in like this cute little holiday house with
so cute,
basically pink and red and green gingham, I just adore it. This would just be the best pillow. And I can actually see it from here because I actually put some of my stash up. I actually have the peppermint house from the Plum Stitchery on the wall.
But did I ever send you the stitch guide? I need to do that if I haven't.
No. Remind me. This might be joining her and why I like houses or architecture, I don't know, but I just feel like this just looks so cozy and cute and there's a fire coming out. And so anyway, I love this, and it was one of the first things I bought.
So that's from Alice Peterson, right?
I'm so sorry. Yes, it's from Alice Peterson, 1013 count, and it's I don't know, probably like a 14 width at least. Yeah, I would guess 14 or 15 width, and then probably I don't know 12 or so tall. But it's so cute.
Well, this is the piece that I'm totally obsessed by, and I'm so mad at myself because I bought one, and as soon as I left KCN's booth, I said to myself, I should have gotten more than one because I need to stitch this. And I mean, I have lots of things in progress. Like I need to stitch nothing new, just like most of our stitchers need to stitch nothing new. But how can you help yourself when you find something you love? So I should have gone back and I didn't. So there's more coming in. What did Polly tell me? I think in January. So I'll have them soon because January's not that far. That's like 7 weeks, right? Right? I'm going to feel better about this.
I can't even think about that. Oh, yes.
Love with this tiger piece. So I guess it does almost have a little bit of gingham on there. But I love animal pieces, this color combination. I think these are tertiary colors, maybe. I don't ever know my color term, so I could have that all wrong. My color experts will tell me, but the blue, the green, and the orange together with that splash of yellow, I just love it. And they had it finished as a leatherback clutch in their room.
Yes, they did.
And it was phenomenal. I mean, this would be this could be frame, this could be a pillow, this could be a clutch. Like there's so many things. This could be a pocket on a tote bag, would be phenomenal. Like can you tell I'm in love with this piece? So I won't be able to stitch this because I've sold it 3 times already and I don't even have, I only have one canvas. So somebody's going to have to wait. And clearly I'm waiting at the tail end of the line, but I'm in love with that piece. And I think,
well, I haven't even done a full market review and I actually have that. So if I don't sell mine, I can always help you out, but I love that piece too, but you loved it way more than I did.
Oh my God. And it's a Sarah Trucks, this piece, SCT is the designer's name because KCN has a number of designers. So I want to give her.
I gotta say, she made a real splash at market, Sarah. She's a really nice person. She's been on the podcast before, but she had a lot. She's like
there.
No.
Okay, good. I'm like, was she there and I didn't meet her? I was going to.
No. I'm saying like her designs made a splash. She had a lot of them and she really made a splash. So good for you, Sarah. My other favorite one from SCT was the nutcrackers with the pink background. You're going to have to stitch that to go with my pink house. But one of these days.
Stitch that one together after we stitch our peppermint house together.
Well, we still have to stitch the zebra, the CBK zebra too, remember? I know we got a lot to
so much. Okay. Well, at least you finished your eeny, meeny, miny, mo, because I haven't even finished that.
I finished eeny, meeny. I also just turned in another pillow, which was, and this vendor was not there, which was Stitch It's. I finished Staying Home is the New Going Out. So I'm excited to get that back from the finisher.
Okay. So the other really fun thing about market, besides finding brand new things, and we alluded to this earlier, many times we find things that have been out forever and they've never just come across our radar before. So I think I found some Christmas things that I had never seen and you found some Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, so and I think part of why I like the digging thing is maybe it's my my amount of years in the industry, or maybe it's just, we both spend a lot of time on Instagram. There are a lot of vendors that are out there that are not on Instagram. And so they've got these lines that are extensive and things have been around for a while. We're just not, I don't know, not good at, maybe just don't have the time to really do deep dives sometimes in websites and things. So anyway, people might say that is new or whatever, but I've never seen these guys before. And I had, they have Thanksgiving on the brain. I don't know if I have a white sheet of paper.
I know that's Susan Roberts, but it almost has like a PD vibe to it too.
It sure does. That's exactly what I thought too when I saw it. And I bet you there is a PD, but so I love this guy and he doesn't resonate well on screen, but it's not a French blue. It's almost like a turquoise, like a true, like what wool would have been that color. So there's the man, the pilgrim man, the pilgrim woman who has her little bonnet. And then she's got this basket of flowers.
So
Isn't
cute.
that darling? And then to go with them is a turkey that has pink on it. Isn't that great?
Those
The
are really
turkey-
cool.
And honestly, sometimes with turkeys with that gobbler, I kind of get freaked out and to stitch it. And this doesn't have that. He's just kind of like, not abstract, but a little less detailed. And I don't know. I just want these as stand-ups in the middle of my Thanksgiving. And I'm going to have to add these to my stash, not at the moment, but I'm going to because I have gotten into the habit of hosting Thanksgiving. So
Well, I have a Thanksgiving set. I don't have it here with me. That I think I got 2 years ago at market, the last time we had an in-person market. And then I had to pick up a set for one of my customers from Donji, and they're really cute. There's a couple Native Americans and then the 2 pilgrims and a turkey, and they're really, really cute. So,
awesome.
but I am not 100% sure that these are new or old, but
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't think these were new, but
these could be brand new. I don't really know, but I thought they were so cute. So these are 5-inch rounds. And I don't know if for those of people that watch here, that also watch my unboxing, my finishers do this really great kissing ball. So these 5-inch rounds, there aren't a lot of them, make really great kissing balls. So they're these big, giant, all the way around, like a true, what's that called? Like globe shaped, whatever that word is.
sphere. Yeah.
Sphere. Thank you. So I can see Mr. Claus on here, but Mr. Claus is super cute. Santa Claus, whatever we want to call him. But look, are you ready? I'm so excited. Look at how adorable
she's cute. I like her glasses.
She got all the looks in the family. Like, I mean, they're super cute together. Yes, they are. But I don't know. Like, they're so cute.
I don't know how many stitches around her glasses are, but you might need some memory thread for that. Gold memory thread to make her wire rimmed glasses.
That'd be so cute. But I mean, you could do a lot of different things with these. You could make, a double-sided pillow, but I would love to see this like a double-sided kissing ball. I hope that would work.
Did they have a reindeer with them? Because that would be cute too.
I don't know if there are more in the series.
That's Danji, you said?
No, this is from the collection.
The collection. I'm sorry. I thought you said
And
Danji.
so
You were
that's
referring to.
I said, I can't guarantee these aren't brand new. Maybe they are, but they seem super classic, don't they? Like,
Yeah. And like I said, I don't recall pulling that thing from Susan Roberts off of like a new. So a lot of people have like, this is what's new at this market. And I don't recall pulling that from an area like that.
yeah.
But you never know.
Yeah. So those were just like kind of like what's old is new to us and what's brand new that we loved. And then we each found something that we're offering as a club, right?
Yes. And I will not take credit for this. A lot of these designers do a really great job of doing some kind of preview on Instagram, which actually helps us because then people text us and say, find that, or I want that, or this was great. See if there's more or whatever. And Eileen, who runs our education and clubs, she kind of helps organize all that. She texted me and said, oh my God, I wonder if she'd do a club. And so Patricia Sohn had these beautiful topiary canvases. So they're each season. So this is spring with the kind of classic topiary. This is summer, I think, with the rosebuds. And then this is autumn. So fall. I think that's pears. Little pears in the topiary. And then poinsettias in the winter topiary. So anyway, this is, and you know what else? I just have to say something, and I hope that this isn't offensive to Patricia, but the canvases are very basic, right? Do you see this? They're not,
Her
But
nativity is the
Patricia,
same thing. Patricia's so brilliant with her stitch guides, but she can paint her canvases or have them painted simply because all the work is in her brain and she spits it out beautifully on paper.
and what's fabulous is that makes them more affordable because she can do so much with threads and stitches that she doesn't have to basically, how else to say this besides pay the painters, to do a lot of that work for her. So I don't know. I was very impressed by these. Eileen was too. I said, those are awesome. And she graciously agreed, which again is a lot of work for a designer because they've got to make sure they get as many as you need and on time. And so she agreed to allow us. And so I think we'll be launching this early next year is what we're hoping for. So, and then you found one too, which I love just as much.
Well, and I'm going to give you a little bit of credit for this because I saw it, but what you knew that I didn't is I've worked with Patricia's stitch guide. So, and I know you have too, but I'm like, oh my gosh, Patricia writes the world's best stitch guide. So if you're going to launch a club, and I used to write all my own stitch guides, and unfortunately that's just not in the cards right now because we're so busy. And so we've become to kind of rely on the experts. Well, this is the Victorian Gazebo series, and I don't have the gazebo canvas. I'm going to have to show you guys the cover of the stitch guide. And you were familiar with Nancy.
Nancy yelled out. She's
and I
awesome.
had not stitched from her stitch guides before. And you're like, and I was like, oh, these are so pretty. And then you're like, wait, Nancy did the stitch guide. So then I'm like, okay, check, done. Because a good stitch guide is all the difference. So here is the gazebo. So this is a 6-piece set. So the gazebo,
Six. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. The gazebo is the main piece. So it's called the Victorian Christmas Gazebo. And I would say it's about 10 by 8, something like that.
Similar-ish to the stable from the Patricia Sewn.
A little bit bigger than the stable.
Okay.
But then
there's the man and the woman.
Yeah. So here's the man. I got to get my piece of paper. I'm so discombobulated.
I love this dress on this lady. I just love. And so again, the canvas is pretty, but the stitching is spectacular.
I'm trying to get down to the picture. Sorry, I'm doing a terrible job of this.
That's okay.
Here is the picture.
She's got her little winter muff. Oh, so the way she did, I don't know if we can even get a good look at it. The way she did the ribbons on the dress is like totally Victorian and cool. Very, very good.
Like satin stitches and neon rays. And
yes,
it looks really, really great, but it's not terribly complicated. Sometimes you get scared off about doing something by yourself. And look at how handsome the man is.
Oh, he is.
Her stitch guide is really good. And then my favorite are the kids. Look at the little boy and the little girl.
Oh, I didn't know there was a little boy and girl. That's what I was missing.
Yes. And I used to have a little muff like this when I was like 5 that I adored.
Oh my gosh. What's in the stitch guide? Is it like fuzzy stuff or do you know?
It's right here. Hold on. I'll catch up to you. No, I didn't have my stitch guide organized. I had my canvas.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm just.
And then last but not least, there's this little snowman.
Snowman.
So yeah, so they said nobody else is in the club, and I'm like, check, count me in.
Beautiful.
And
the pinks are fun. That would be really pretty if someone does villages, like some of the village pieces. It would be really fun to stitch a village, I think. So yeah, very cool.
So we're gonna do signups between now and January 1st, and then it won't start until June. So if you're hanging out there and you want to do Megan's topiaries and my gazebo club, they won't overlap.
Kind of perfect because ours is going to go out, I think, February. We're hoping, depending on supplies, February, May, August, and November.
Oh, you're doing it every other month. I'm sorry. I was thinking we wouldn't overlap because you were doing it every month and I wasn't starting until June. But in either way, neither one of them is a huge commitment other than maybe the gazebo itself. The gazebo is a little bit bigger, but the people and your 4-inch rounds, I'll pop those off. So no one knows, we'll end up doing each other's clubs. That's what we do. So,
or at least say we're going to. There's always that.
There's always that. What else we didn't mention is I met the Curious Cowgirl. And what's her real life name? Mary Myers So I did this before. I can't remember. She has 3 names. It's Mary Meyer something.
I know it's Mary, the Curious Cowgirl, but she's awesome. And she's doing some, I actually bought some, I gave it to Lauren. She was selling some vintage flour sack, I guess is what it's called, fabric.
Cloth, I think, yeah.
Something. And it was vintage fabric and the designs were just sort of just really nice. And yeah, so that was a fun thing too. So
I brought those
lots
home.
and lots.
You had told me she plans needlepoint trips.
So I'm trying to talk her into coming to visit us here in St. Louis. We'll see.
So there was a big discussion about a Michigan trip, Detroit and maybe Mackinac Island and maybe some things in between. So
My
we'll see if
dream.
that pans out. But those are the kind of networking things that happen at market, kind of all by accident. Like, I didn't know she did that. She's like, ooh, I've always wanted to go to Michigan, so yeah, those things happen. So we'll see.
Fun. It's very serendipitous and a lot of fodder, and hopefully the show of it can come to fruition because it's a lot. But
Exactly.
we're excited.
Well,
So.
good. Well, I hope everyone can tell how much fun we had. We did. I really wish I didn't look like a glowing orb right now with this terrible light. When we started this, it's daylight savings time. We started this, there was plenty of light outside and I didn't think about what would happen when the light.
Well,
went
that's
down.
okay because I didn't really gussy myself too much up today because we were pretty busy and I just didn't have time. So, but you know what? It was really fun.
You're in soccer mom wardrobe. So
I went to the soccer game today. It was 44 degrees, I think, and I'm still heating up. So yeah, it was fun though. So.
Well, I can't wait. We were trying to figure out when we were seeing each other next. We still haven't figured that out again, but we had a great
And I'm
time.
hoping it's not May, but there's a chance.
Yeah, for our retreat, which, by the way, I will just throw it on the end here. We had ended up with 212 people that wanted to come to the spring retreat. We ran our little random number generator and came up with 60 people. So I'm sorry if you weren't one of the 60. I do have a little wait list going in case people drop out because real life happens. But more importantly, I think Megan is 100% planning on having a fall retreat. Is that right?
100% on a fall retreat, and still kind of tossing around the idea of maybe doing another one at some point, maybe not related to the podcast, but we have other requests to do little private retreat type things. So you know what, we're going to find ways to all get together and stitch. So
yeah,
stay tuned.
Yeah, there's more opportunities it was my point. Don't be sad if you didn't make it into the last one or this one, because there'll still be the next one and the one after that and the one after that. So
absolutely. All right.
Okay, well, good to
This
spend
is
time
fun.
with you.
You too. Happy local needlepoint shop day. Thanks to all the local needlepoint shop owners who helped this industry hum.
Yes, and most importantly, thanks to our customers who let us do what we do. So
That's exactly right. Okay.
okay, have a great night. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.